Welcome to the ninth grade experience. I'm your host, Chris Dutchko. As a teacher of freshmen and one of our freshman mentor committee faculty advisors, I spend a lot of my school day thinking about and helping students with the successful transition from middle school to the halls of Emmaus High School. The goal of this podcast is to give you the story of the ninth grade here at Emmaus High School through the people who live it daily, the students and staff. We will attempt to touch on the real issues and stories that ninth grade students face, ranging from academics to athletics, technical school, and just trying to find your way as one person in a community of approximately 2,700 students. We will also look to speak with some of the influential staff members who play a key part in a student's ninth grade year. It is the hope that future ninth grade students and their families can use the tips and insights provided here to begin making connections to their potential new school and learn more about the day-to-day lives of the students that they will one day become and realize from day one that ninth grade counts. You can learn more about this episode and all of the episodes of the ninth grade experience by following us on Twitter at EHSFMC or at Chris Stutchko, or following the hashtag EHS9counts, or our website, sites.google.com/eastpennsd.org/ninth grade experience. Before we jump into today's topic, let's thank our sponsor for this show, the East Penn Education Foundation. This podcast has been made possible through a $1,000 grant awarded to teachers like me each year who are attempting to do unique projects in the area of science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. The foundation supports programs that put learning in motion by giving students the tools they need to think actively in a complex and changing world. You can follow them on Facebook at EPSD Education Foundation, on Twitter at EPSD EdFound, or on Instagram at EPSD Ed Foundation. Now on to the show. Welcome, everyone, to this week's episode of the Ninth Grade Experience podcast, the first full week in May. So it's, the year is rolling right along here as we kind of, I think we're in week 8 of the coronavirus shutdown here. So it seems like a long time that we've been out, but it seems we're doing okay here. So this week we're going to focus on it being Teacher and Nurses Appreciation Week. So we have a couple students that wanted to come on and give their thoughts about their favorite teachers. And then we also have about 25 student responses that they typed in as well. And we invited other people to come on. So if people join us during the recording of this, they're more than happy to drop in and we'll fit them in. But we are joined here today by 2 of our regular contributors here during the COVID-19 shutdown here. We have Reid here, who's back after a couple of weeks off. He's been working, he told me. So nice to have you back, Reid.
Thank you.
And we're also joined by Josh Jones, who has been our faithful person that's been here every week, contributing the way that he can. So Josh, it's nice to see you again. So the way that we'll do it here is we'll kind of do some of the ones that were typed in first. We'll sprinkle in the other guys that are here too. So this week, we're honoring teachers for all the work that they're doing. So we wanted to ask about some of your favorite teachers and some of the people that have influenced you. We asked some of our teachers too. We got a response or two just to kind of identify some important teachers in their upbringing and their school careers that may have influenced them as well too. So this week we're giving a shout out to the teachers on the podcast, just kind of saying thank you for all the work that they're doing. So either one of you guys, do you guys want to go first since you're here, and then we'll read some, and then we'll sprinkle in some comments from you guys?
All right.
So Reid said he's going to go first.
So I have about 4 overall, but 2 of them go together. The first one the first 2 are Mr. Toth and Mr. Kohler from LMMS. They were the tech ed teachers, but they always seemed to wanted to do something else that wasn't in the curriculum. They were always up to help. They were never one to say no to anything. They would try even if they didn't think it could be done. And I think that's what made them great teachers.
And I think you'll see that's a common theme through what a lot of our students also responded back into, that it's all about the personal connections and the relationships, which obviously during the shutdown time here, it's been a little bit more difficult to maintain. We've tried to do it through Google Meets and other things as well too. So we're trying to keep that establishment and keep that connection. So before you get to your next one here, Reid, we'll jump in and we'll read some of them that students contributed. So I'm just going to read their first names and last initial. So that'll be how we identify our students that typed in. So we have Glenn G. And this was a pretty general one, but a good one. He said he would say all of his teachers, because without them, he wouldn't have learned so many different things, and he wouldn't be smart the way that he is today and getting the grades that he's getting. And he also gave a shout out to his mom for giving him the education that he's been getting, which at this time, our parents and guardians and everyone that's working with all the students at home, they're being teachers at home as well too. So, it's not necessarily somebody to think about, but parents giving that background, that education as well at home too. And then I'm going to have one more, and then we'll jump back into Reid. This one's from Logan D. Last year, Miss Oswald was the health and gym teacher and made a big impact on his middle school experience. She was always funny and had a lot of different learning experiences. So again, getting back to Reid's point there about the experiences and what they create in the classroom. So either one of you guys want to chime in with another person or qualities of good teachers or things you appreciate about teachers?
Yeah, I'm gonna go, and I'm gonna sound like a sucker here. But I think I gotta say it was you and Mr. Labar for this year, because when I came in, I knew nobody really. Nobody I really knew in my classes. So when I kind of went into science, I didn't expect to do much or talk much. But when I came in, there was always discussions that weren't planned, but that could be turned into science. I thought that's nice because I like to go off the curriculum and base it on things that we're actually interested in. So it's nice to be able to do that.
Yeah, and I think that's and thank you for that. Again, I didn't pay him or plan him to say that kind of stuff. Some of our names do pop up again from what some other students said too, but I think that's really important. That one of the things that Mr. Labar and I try to do, and I hopefully all your teachers try to do, is make those personal connections with you, in addition to the curriculum stuff as well. So science, in our 9th grade science, we have that ability to kind of do that a little bit deeper in a lot of different ways, where we have to incorporate a lot of those real world events in. So. Yeah, we know Reid is one of those people. He has a mind to think about lots of things, not necessarily inside the classroom. So, as a teacher, it's really important to kind of figure that stuff out and try to identify different ways to identify with students. And I think, all of us as teachers are always continuously trying to do that and make those connections and especially as coming in as a 9th grader, that's in a super important connection. And I think you're going to hear that again, that same common theme come up several times throughout it. And I don't have it set up that way to read the different ones, but you're going to hear that theme come up again and again of making people feel comfortable and trying to get people maybe even in a subject that they didn't necessarily like, that was kind of highlighted as well too. Josh, you want to chime in with anything right now before I read a couple more? Josh says no, or it looks no. So we'll get back into it in a second here with Josh and Reid. Here's a couple more that we'll read through. This is from Ishan H. Honestly, the teacher who influenced him the most was Mr. Smith. He was a cool guy in general, as well as a great teacher. He was the person who was absolutely hilarious, as well as the person you knew you had to respect, which made him one of the most awesome teachers I've ever had in his school career. Because more often than not, you always got one type, the teacher no one takes seriously and the teacher who's too serious to the point. But Mr. Smith wasn't either one of those. So that's why I think he influenced me the most. And this is Mr. Smith from middle school, not the Mr. Smith at the high school. So sorry, Mr. Smith at the high school. So that was Ishan. David H. Gave a couple of names here for Mrs. Bonder and Harcum. And I apologize if I'm getting any of the names wrong. I'm just going off what the students have spelled, and kind of if they're not from the high school, I'm not 100% knowledgeable about all those people. So I apologize if I'm getting your names wrong. And then I'll end with one kind of echoing with Reid. This is from Mackenzie E. She did say me, had a big impact because when I needed help, he was always there to help me. and especially in the support class that we were kind of in. He always helped me get through the tough thing that I needed help with, and he understood what I was saying. So that's another one of those things, as Reid pointed out, we're always trying to make those connections with students. So we appreciate hearing the good things. So let's get back to our live guest here. So Reid or Josh, anyone want to chime in with some names or some other things, features about teachers that you appreciate?
Well, I guess when going off of teachers, I feel like it is if you don't like a class, I feel the teacher can make or break that class for the year. So when you do find a teacher in a class that you normally don't like, that can actually make the class fun and exciting, that's what I think is one of the best qualities of a teacher.
Yeah, and I agree, and I think it's we especially at the high school, you have students that are coming into classes and they may not be their favorite. Like I know science is one of those tricky subjects where kids maybe aren't 100% into science, and we have to teach them science. So we try to make it as interesting and as engaging as possible with that kind of stuff as well too. So Josh, are you ready to start chiming in yet? I know sometimes it takes you a little bit of time to warm up, but is there anything you wanted to add in?
I had Mr. Smith last year, and he was a good teacher.
So a double thumbs up for Mr. Smith. Do you kind of agree with what I think that was what Ishan said about him in that statement?
Yeah.
So yeah, and it's interesting, like as we get, there's one teacher that I have a response from who remembered a teacher from second grade. So it's interesting the way that certain teachers will stick with you and kind of go through there. So let me go back. I'll read a couple more here. If there's anybody that you hear, or you want to mention or add something in, guys, you most certainly can. So this is from Zach M. He identified Mr. LeBar, my partner in crime in GSI, and somebody who Reid mentioned earlier. He made an impact on me by how he goes about his teaching and shows that he cares to his students. Another student we have, Haley K, said, thank you to all the teachers. Y'all are doing an amazing job keeping all the students on track for the rest of the year so we can move on to the next grade. Keep being awesome. Double exclamation point. And then Tiffany M said her English teacher, Mrs. Williams, has made a huge impact on her because she's taught her that there aren't any rules in writing. And if you really want to write something, you have to have an open mind, also because she's a Capricorn like me and she's really nice. So I guess knowing your teacher's zodiac sign also could be a factor in how you get along with them as well too. So I don't even know if I know my own zodiac sign. So I don't know if I would need to how I would agree with certain people. So Reid or Josh, anyone you want to chime in with before we get back into the list, or other thoughts, or any of those people that you identified? I know Reid, you already talked about Mr. LeBar, and Josh, you don't have Mr. LeBar, but anyone else on that list or anything else you want to chime in before we keep moving on?
I think all my teachers were really good this year. I really liked them all. They were.
So Josh, you're saying that all your teachers were kind of really good this year and kind of helped make that transition to ninth grade a little bit easier for you?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it's interesting too. Like when we started having these conversations 6 weeks ago about what people miss, they miss that being in the building. They miss that interaction with people, whether it's their classmates or the teachers. And it's been a challenging 8 weeks here of trying to keep those connections going and keep that stuff moving ahead. I don't get as much contact with students, individually. So that's why I enjoy when people come through for the podcast and other stuff like that. But it's hard. Thankfully, we had a chance to make those connections for the first several months before the end of the shutdown here. So Josh is identifying all of his teachers. Maybe in the next little break here, we'll get him to kind of name them by name so they can get an individualized shout out here on that. So let's jump back in. I'll read a couple more here and we'll come back. So this is from Zach W. The teacher that has impacted me the most in the school is Mr. Duarte. One of my favorite quotes is, "School is a game. I play lots of video games and know when you hit a hard wall, you can go through it. Just like when you hit a project, you can work on it." So Mr. Duarte teaches math. I know a lot of people really speak very favorably of him. And I like that. School is a game, and hitting a hard wall. We've hit a hard wall these last 8 weeks and we're almost through it to the summer here, a couple more weeks to go. Chris B said the most influential teacher in his life was Mr. Domian. He made him feel like he needed to work harder and be more understanding to be better than he once was. So again, pushing you beyond your limits and getting you to think about how hard you can work. Next one here, we'll read two more, and then we'll go back into our people there. Olivia M. said Mr. Romali has been an influential teacher for her this year. He helped to get to a higher level of math for next year, and he made math really fun. Mr. Romali is I actually share a room with Mr. Romali. I consider Mr. Romali a friend, and he is a great person, really always looking out to help other students. Always, helpful to his colleagues as well too. But Mr. Romali is a great example of the teacher that we all would like to try to be as well. And then our last person, Isaac M, identified Ms. Dunham as a teacher that he really enjoyed. I don't know what level Mrs. Dunham teaches at, but so getting back to Josh and to Reid, any other names or anything you want to chime in with?
You know what? I do got to say, Mr. Romali was a great teacher throughout this year. Even now, considering that's with this odd time.
Yeah.
I only had him for math, but it was always nice to have him there because he could always, if I didn't understand anything, I just went back to him.
He's always like that, and helping us, helping people out. He helps out at, the colleagues in our department as well too. He just has that mentality of always helping, and the students pick up on that. The staff picks up on that. He's just always willing to step up and do what is needed, do the best for kids. So, Mr. Romali is always one that kind of comes up on these lists, but for due reason as well. All right, so let's go back into
actually one other thing too.
Go ahead.
I think 6th grade was the first time I ever had to take a bus to school. So I'm going to say the bus driver, Mr. Sean, he might not be a teacher, but I'm going to consider him as one. He was always kind of nice. First day we walked on the bus and he asked for everybody's name. Every time we got on or off the bus, he would, say our names and ask us how we were. And I feel like that made the whole bus situation a lot easier, smoother.
Yeah, and I think every level of people and support in the building has like a different time of the year that they're kind of celebrated. I don't know if the bus drivers get a time of the year, but I agree, Reid. You have all these different support staff in the building that are always trying to help out, and even the influence of a bus driver, while you're right, is not necessarily a quote teacher, but was able to make those personal connections with you to ease a little bit of those situations, especially with getting on a bus, being, 6th grade, on the bus with middle schoolers that might be in 8th grade, that is a really tricky situation. So, and again, you haven't seen that was he your bus driver all through middle school?
No, I had it for 1 year and then we got another one.
So yeah, so a bus driver for only 1 year in middle school, and it's somebody that, made a huge influence, and it's not necessarily something that they taught you in the classroom, but, just kind of helped you to feel at ease. And if you're, going into school feeling at ease or knowing that you're going to leave at the end of the day and not have to worry about the bus, it does take a lot of stress off that kind of situation as well too. So, all right, so let me go into our next grouping here from other students. So we got Zoe S., unnamed teacher in 4th grade who fueled her love of reading. And I can attest that she is reading still all the time. She carries a book with her almost every day that we see her. I know she was working on the Game of Thrones series when school was shutting down. I think we might have asked her that in a previous episode if she was still reading it. But, that 4th grade teacher, and you can still see today that she is still having that love of reading. All right, so let's keep moving ahead here. So we have Leanna B. Mr. Richards made a big impact on her encouragement of going to school. She learns a lot from his classes, and he makes it so fun so that she actually pays attention and look forward to going. He also notices and compliments good work ethic and goes to the effort to let you know what he likes about something, and it encourages me to make him proud. So that's a great comment here. There's a couple more Mr. Richards statements that are coming up throughout. I know that Josh also has Mr. Richards. So Josh, is there anything you wanted to add in about Mr. Richards before we continue on?
He was a good teacher.
Anything specifically you want to mention about him?
No,
nothing specific. Not that he dresses well or has a great sense of humor.
He does have a good humor. Yeah.
Oh, you're saying he doesn't dress well though?
He does. Yes.
I also co-teach with Mr. Richards, and Mr. Richards is a well-dressed person. He's always he's on the cutting edge of style, so it's always fun to see him. All right, so let's keep moving ahead here as we read a couple more. This is from Caitlin P. Of all the teachers, the one that had the biggest impact on her was her first grade teacher, Miss Becky. Not only was she one of the nicest teachers she had, but was very understanding and helpful. When I was in her class, I was undiagnosed with ADHD because I was still too young. If it wasn't for her, I might not have ever been successful as I've been. She's my favorite teacher, and I miss her a lot. So we're going all the way back to first grade for that one. It's really interesting, just the impact and that just the feeling of inclusion, the feeling of success and what that happened. And for a first grader to feel that, and she carries that with her today. It's a great story there. And we'll read one more before we jump back into our guys here. So Matthew L., the most influential teacher was Mr. Harm or Ham, seventh grade science teacher. I apologize. I'm trying to read it here. Harm. Harm, Mr. Harm.
Yep.
Okay, so he made learning super fun with lots of hands-on activities and taught you more than just science. So did either of you guys have Mr. Harm for seventh grade science?
I didn't.
Neither one of you did or didn't?
I did.
Okay, so what do you remember about Mr. Harm, Josh?
He was a funny science teacher. He was good.
So we're, making these connections. We have lots of different things here, lots of different people chiming in with different names. Anything you guys want to add in before we keep going through the names here?
Going back to seventh grade, I want to say my seventh grade science teacher, and now I just drew a blank of his name. That's nice. But he was on Excalibur. He always was able to try something different and would challenge students to do their best and, reward them for it.
Yeah, that always never letting people settle and challenging, and then also giving you some sort of reward, some sort of tangible thing for it at the end too. Yeah, it's
I got his name.
Oh, you got it. What is it?
It's Mr. Hanlon.
Okay, so Mr. Hanlon. I don't know if his name came up anywhere else, but we'll have to see. So we'll read through a couple more here. Isabella D. Said her most influential person has been Mr. Richards because he knows that she could do so much better, and he knows that she can do better in her life and try harder. So, again, that always pushing, always trying to get the better out of people. Jimmy L. from the same class said he loves me and Mr. Richards, the classroom of GSI. So again, thanks Jimmy for chiming in there. Sheldine P says Mrs. Bianco, a teacher from her sixth grade year. She was a strong teacher because when she was teaching us throughout the year, she had a lot of health issues, but she continued to stay strong. So that's an interesting thing too, like recognizing that teachers are people as well. We got a lot going on, especially during this time too. Like we were at home, we're dealing with family, we're dealing with lots of different stuff. So that was nice of Sheldine to recognize a teacher that was going through a lot, but I think one of the things that kind of always motivates teachers is that desire to want to do the best we can for students. And I hopefully Sheldine felt that from Mrs. Bianco as well. So we have three more on my end to read. So we'll kind of take a quick little break here. Guys, anything else you want to add in or chime in about favorite teachers or things that are going on right now?
I do want to say I'm not the greatest at math, but I feel every math teacher that I've had was really good. They never stopped and, just gave up. Even when I felt like I wanted to, they didn't. So I pushed me, and they always helped me if I didn't understand anything.
So again, recognizing recognizing that what maybe you're not even recognizing yourself is your ability to do math, your ability to kind of, try new things, try more challenging things as well too. Josh, anything you want to chime in with?
That was the same thing with my math teacher this year. I had Miss Zayat Ruth. Like whenever I needed help, she had like available study halls time when I had study hall, and I could just go there and she'd just help me. And she'd also let us retake our mini quizzes whenever we failed. We would get to retake it after we went over it with her. So it was kind of nice to have that option.
Cool.
I didn't have her in the morning. She was always in my room with Mrs. McMullen, and I was one of the first ones there So I'd always be sitting in the classroom and end up talking to them about anything. So, not even my teacher, but she was willing to help. When Mrs. McMullen was out there one time, I remember she was in the classroom early and I didn't understand a piece of homework and she helped me with it.
So again, that willingness to help and not letting anyone struggle, I think that's a pretty common thing. And even the people that aren't mentioned here, I'm sure a lot of, every teacher in our building is kind of doing those things, and maybe they just weren't mentioned in this little shout out to teachers here. So let's finish up here. We got 3 more names to read. So Richard R. says his teacher, Miss Tice, taught him a lot over the months on how to be a more respectful person. He had just come into our building from Central Catholic, so that was somebody that he identified with in his time from Central Catholic, his Spanish teacher from there. So that was pretty cool that he looked back on a teacher he had previously and responded. We have Ben S. would say that his 8th grade social studies teacher, Mr. Smith, was the most influential teacher because of the way he taught and understood his students. He was a coach, and the way he taught me and the other athletes he had about getting work done and time management helped him so much this school year and in high school. So again, those messages and those things as well too, coming through. And then our last student that I wanted to read, it's from Caitlin W. And she kind of summed up a lot of what people have said the entire time. She said, so many have impacted me, and I've not noticed it all until someone asked me the question. I always think that teachers are against her and stuff, so she doesn't really like them. But she's learned a lot, especially from Mr. Richards, to be understanding about the teachers, that they have to deal with teenagers all day. And trust me, I wouldn't want to hang out with myself either. Mr. Richards made an impact on her by seeing when she was annoyed or the way that she was with teachers, and it helped her to become more understanding over teachers and learned that teachers are trying to help her and to not take things out on them as much. So I think that's one of those things, especially when you get into high school, you start to kind of take a step back and you see the things that teachers are trying to do. And I think hopefully people are realizing that it's a lot more than just what's going on in the classroom, but the whole package of, helping students out, meeting them where they are, meeting their needs and all that different stuff. And especially during this time where we've been doing a lot of reaching out and a lot of trying to do that kind of stuff. So guys, any last words here or final thoughts for shouting out for teachers here as we kind of close up this episode?
I want to say every single one of my teachers was nice, and I wish I could list them all, but there's been so many I can't remember half of them. Whenever I had a problem, every teacher I had would always make time. If I couldn't come in one period, they'd do another period. If they had a class going one period, but that was like the only period I could come in, they would put me to the side and I'd be able to get help.
And Josh, how about you? Any final words or thoughts?
I can't think of anything.
He said it.
I guess,
he said it all. He said that, you said earlier that you appreciated all your teachers and you kind of had that. So I think, is there any, you were getting ready to say something there before I kind of jumped in, but.
Oh, I just guess that all my teachers were really great and really nice.
All right, and that's a good thought to end on. I have to go back and read. We did have one teacher respond back to one, and I think this is a great story to end on, and I think it tells the real lasting impact of teachers. So this is from Mrs. Kneller, and the teacher she identified was Miss Green from 2nd grade. She identified the year too, so since she wrote it, I'm going to read it. And she said it was 1981, so this was 38 years ago.
So wait, she remembers her teacher from that far long ago? Gee.
Yep. So yes. So that's the point here, because I was born in 1981, so I'm 38. So that's a long way back here. So she went to Brookhaven Elementary School on Long Island. The teacher, not Mrs. Kneller, was a hippie. Her hair was long and red, and she wore it in 2 low pigtails on either side of her head. Mrs. Kneller had a prized rabbit's foot keychain that she lost on the bus. When it was obvious how upset she was, the teacher sat her down and explained to me where rabbit's foot keychains come from. I never have forgotten that moment or her, and I so valued her honesty, shocking and gross as it may have been. So if you know anything about Mrs. Kneller, she is one of our environmental science teachers. She teaches global science. She is she does a lot of mindfulness stuff too. So that moment has stuck with her for that long that she remembers that exact conversation. And I think that's what celebrating this week is, what it's all about, is making those connections. Hopefully all of your teachers out there have made some connections. We're thanking the teachers for making those connections and giving what they can during this time here during the shutdown. So guys, thanks a lot for joining us to give us some stories and some input there on some of your favorite teachers. It's greatly appreciated. Thanks to all the students that responded back through Google Classroom, giving us lots of great stories as we kind of, celebrate teachers this week. Even though we're not in the building, we take a little time here to celebrate all the hard work that they do for the students and the staff here at Emmaus High School. So guys, thanks a lot. We'll check in with you next week. We'll see. I don't know what our topic of the week will be next week, but we'll see where we're going to be. So thanks a lot for joining us, guys.